Leon Prater might be the most dangerous villain Dexter has ever faced. This billionaire serial killer collector hosts dinner parties with actual murderers. But what is his actual plan with all of that? Today, I'll be covering every theory and every fact we know to reveal his true plan, and trust me, it might be more evil than we all think. Let's start with what we know for certain about the New York Ripper case, because this might be the key to everything. The Ripper has at least 22 confirmed victims and was never caught. Episode 6 shows Detective Claudette Wallace's crime board covered with victim photos and timelines. This isn't just background decoration, it's central to the plot. The victims span years, different neighborhoods, different backgrounds, but the same brutal method. A killer who disappeared without a trace. Detective Wallace is obsessed with this case, and I mean obsessed to the point where it nearly destroyed her career. She spent years trying to crack it, following leads that go nowhere, chasing a ghost who left bodies across New York. Other cops have given up, the case files gather dust, but Wallace can't let it go. She knows something everyone else missed. Now here's where it gets interesting. Leon Prater's collection includes a crowbar, allegedly the New York Ripper's murder weapon. He displays it almost proudly.
This was the New York Rippers.
When the Ripper comes up in conversation, Prater shows unusual interest, mentioning that the killer was never caught with real admiration. Think about that for a second. Most people, even true crime enthusiasts, talk about unsolved cases with frustration or curiosity. Prater talks about the Ripper like an artist discussing their masterpiece, like someone personally invested in the legacy. Peter Dinklage himself has been coy about this connection. In interviews, he said Prater has never committed a violent crime himself, but he likes to be around it secondhand. Notice that careful wording. Never committed a violent crime himself. That doesn't mean he hasn't facilitated them or covered them up. It doesn't mean he hasn't protected someone who has. There's also the geographical connection that fans have been mapping out. Prater grew up in New York, specifically in neighborhoods where the Ripper operated. The show hasn't explicitly confirmed which neighborhoods, but the implication is clear. Young Leon Prater was there when the Ripper was active. He would have seen the police presence, the fear in the community, maybe even known some of the victims. Now, there are two main theories about this connection, and both are terrifying in different ways. The first theory is that Prater himself is the Ripper. The timeline could work. He'd be the right age, he has intimate knowledge of the case, and owning the murder weapon would be the ultimate trophy for a killer hiding in plain sight. Think about it, what better cover than becoming a billionaire philanthropist? Who would suspect someone donating millions to charity of being a serial killer from decades ago?
I have to ask you, Leon Prater, who are you?
This theory gains weight when you consider his current behavior. He surrounds himself with killers because he is one. He understands them because he shares their darkness. The dinner parties aren't just collecting, they're communion with his own kind. The second theory suggests someone close to Prater, possibly a family member, maybe a brother, was the Ripper, and Leon used his resources to protect them. This would explain his fascination with serial killers and why he seems to understand them so well. It's not admiration, it's guilt transformed into obsession. Imagine young Leon discovering his brother's secret. The horror, the choice to turn in family or become complicit. If he chose protection, that decision would define his entire life. Every dollar earned, every connection made, all in service of keeping that secret buried. This theory explains why he keeps the murder weapon. It's not a trophy, it's evidence he's controlling. As long as he has it, no one else can test it for DNA, fingerprints, or other forensic evidence that technology couldn't detect decades ago, but might reveal today. But here's what's really important. Whether Prater is the Ripper or just connected to the case, this mystery gives him leverage over Detective Wallace. She needs answers. He might have them. That dynamic is going to matter as the season progresses. The real question is, why would Prater risk keeping the murder weapon if he's connected to the case? Unless having it gives him power, unless it's part of a bigger collection that nobody fully understands yet, unless he wants someone to eventually find out. Now let's talk about what Prater is actually doing with these dinner parties, because it's so much more than social gatherings. Showrunner Clyde Phillips described it as a twisted underground network, and that's a pretty accurate way to put it. These aren't just dinners, they're recruitment events, psychological experiments, and power plays all rolled into one. Prater is deliberately bringing killers together, studying them. Charlie, described officially as Prater's resourceful and meticulous right-hand woman. She's not just security, she's former special operations. Think about what that means. This isn't someone who did a few years in the military. Special operations means elite training, classified missions, the ability to kill efficiently and without hesitation. You don't need that level of security for normal dinner parties. You need it when your guests are killers and things might go sideways. Serial killers are typically loners, isolated by their crimes. They can't share their true selves with anyone. But at Prater's table, they're among their own kind. They can drop hints, share looks, and even brag about their killings. It's the only place they feel understood. But it goes beyond fascination. Prater is building something systematic. A network implies organization, structure, purpose. These killers aren't just randomly showing up for free food. They're there because Prater offers them something they can't get anywhere else: community, protection, and of course money. And Prater sits at the center like a spider in his web, collecting their stories, their methods, and even their services. Because when you have a network of killers who trust you and who owe you, what couldn't you accomplish? The network extends beyond just dinners, as we can see in the latest episodes where he takes them on a trip with the helicopter. This is a full-on organization, and we know Prater is investing serious resources into maintaining it. Which brings us to the biggest question: what is the deeper meaning behind all of that? Is it way more than just his obsession with serial killers? Maybe that network is the real reason he got so wealthy. He uses the killers as some sort of agents for intelligence gathering or to kill people who would hurt his business. Each killer serves as both entertainment and strategic resource. But it could also be something completely different. In the 4th episode of Resurrection, we see the trophy collection of Prater, but one detail sparks a theory. Leon Prater owns Dexter Morgan's original blood slides.
Please don't touch. Sorry.
And the way he acquired them tells us everything about his resources and intentions. Prater claims he bought them from an FBI agent with a gambling problem.
Bought these from an FBI agent with a gambling problem.
Think about what that transaction means. These slides were evidence in one of the most infamous serial killer cases in Florida history. They were supposed to be destroyed or locked away forever in federal evidence storage. Instead, they're in a billionaire's private collection. Let's break down what getting them even required. First, Prater had to know the slides existed and where they were stored. That means connections deep within federal law enforcement. Second, he had to identify an agent with both access and vulnerability. That suggests surveillance, research, possibly even orchestrating the debt to create leverage. Third, he had to execute the transfer without triggering internal FBI protocols. This isn't buying stolen art, this is acquiring federal evidence. When the Bay Harbor Butcher case broke, these slides were key evidence. They represented over 40 victims, years of killing, and a complete record of Dexter's dark passenger. The official story is that James Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher.
Sergeant James Dokes. Sergeant.
Case closed, killer dead, justice served. But someone willing to pay massive amounts for those slides probably doesn't buy the official story. They'd have questions, they'd have theories, they'd have done their own investigation. Consider what Prater would discover with even basic research. Dokes was Special Forces, trained to kill efficiently in combat. The Bay Harbor Butcher was methodical, ritualistic, someone who made killing ceremonial. Dokes was aggressive and direct. The Butcher was careful, patient, and invisible for years. The psychological profiles don't match. Then there's the forensic knowledge. The Butcher knew exactly how to dispose of bodies to avoid detection, how to clean crime scenes, how to avoid leaving evidence. Someone like a forensics expert. And if we go back to Dexter Newblood and listen to the podcast Molly Park did, even she, just as an internet blogger, didn't buy that Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher. In her podcast, she said, "But what if they were wrong? Because here's the thing, I did some digging on Reddit. I found a guy who claims he did special ops with Dokes.
He says Dokes was out of the country doing classified shit when some of the BHB killings took place."
So if she can get that kind of information, how could Prater not? He for sure has the resources to pull off that kind of research easily, and it's shown that he is very calculated. What if he just plays with Dexter as some sort of psychological warfare? Every time Dexter sees those slides, he has to wonder if Prater knows. Someone so obsessed with serial killers, someone who studies cases obsessively, would notice patterns. Miami Metro had an unusual number of serial killer cases. The ice truck killer targeted Dexter specifically. Trinity killed Rita Morgan. The brain surgeon, the Doomsday Killers, Dexter Morgan's name appears in all these cases. A blood spatter analyst who keeps finding himself at the center of serial killer activity. But the show hasn't confirmed that Prater knows. What we can confirm is that owning these slides gives him power. If he ever does connect them to Dexter, that's leverage. That's control. That's the ability to destroy Dexter's life and get him behind bars. The slides represent more than just trophies. They represent a killer who followed a code, who selected victims based on their own crimes, who saw himself as justice rather than chaos. For someone building a network of killers, studying the Bay Harbor Butcher's methodology would be invaluable. These slides are a masterclass in organized serial killing. Now, based on what's actually been revealed on the show and all the theories, let's look at the possible directions for Prater's story. Before you watch any further, I'm happy to finally announce that I'm releasing the first limited drop of my t-shirts. At the start, there are only 100 available, so make sure you buy them while you can at dtmerch.store. Enjoy the video. First, there's the collector trajectory, but not in the way you might think. Prater isn't just collecting for personal satisfaction, he's building something crazier, a living museum of murderers. Think about it. Most collectors have objects, artifacts, things. Prater collects not only that, he collects the killers themselves. He might be creating a study of serial murder with actual people he can observe, interview, and analyze. This goes beyond fascination into something more academic, more systematic. He might be documenting everything: psychological profiles, preferences, killing rituals. Imagine the data he's gathering from these dinner parties. Every conversation is potentially recorded. He could be building the biggest database on serial killer psychology ever made. Second, there's the corruption arc, specifically centered on Dexter. Prater might see Dexter as his ultimate prize, not just to collect, but to corrupt and transform. The Bay Harbor Butcher represents something unique in Prater's collection. A killer with a code. A killer who got away with it. A killer who fooled everyone, including the FBI. If Prater could turn Dexter's code to serve his purposes, he'd have the perfect weapon. A killer who can eliminate problems while maintaining the appearance of justice. A killer who knows how to avoid detection. A killer who could teach others these skills. The blood slides support this theory perfectly. They're not just trophies, they're bait. Proof that Prater has something on Dexter. Prater might want to corrupt the code itself. Harry's code was about channeling darkness toward justice. Prater's version might be about channeling darkness toward his own goals. Imagine Dexter's skills, but selecting victims based on Prater's needs rather than their crimes. Third, there's the New York Ripper revelation in-game. If Prater is connected to the Ripper, either as the killer or as someone protecting the killer, that revelation seems inevitable. Detective Wallace is too focused, too obsessed for that thread not to pay off. And when it does, everything changes. But here's the twist. What if Prater wants to be revealed? What if this entire network, this entire operation, has been building toward the moment when the world discovers that one of its most respected billionaires is connected to one of New York's most infamous killers? Think about the impact. Every charity he's supported becomes tainted. Every politician he's donated to becomes a suspect. Every business deal gets scrutinized. It would be a nuclear bomb dropped on New York's entire power structure. Perhaps the revelation is meant to be his grand finale. Go out in a blaze of infamy, finally getting the recognition the Ripper never received. Serial killers often crave fame, acknowledgement. What if Prater's wealth and network have all been building toward ensuring his name lives forever in infamy? Fourth, there's the network expansion possibility and the empire building scenario. Prater isn't satisfied with dinner parties in New York. He wants to build something lasting, something that continues beyond him. A franchise of murder, organized and protected, operating globally. The casting of Peter Dinklage and Uma Thurman suggests multi-season potential. You don't hire actors of that caliber for a one-and-done villain. The show is building something bigger, and Prater's network could be the thread that connects multiple seasons. Imagine Prater's network spreading, Chicago gets a chapter, Los Angeles gets a chapter, each city with its own Charlie-type handler, its own dinner parties, its own collection of local killers. All connected, all sharing information and resources, all protected by Prater's billions and influence. This isn't just about collecting anymore, it's about revolutionizing serial murder itself, creating an ecosystem where killers can operate more effectively, share techniques, avoid detection through shared intelligence. It's murder, turning it from a solitary pursuit into an organized industry. Fifth, and perhaps most disturbing, is the succession plan. Prater is old. He won't live forever, but his network, his collection, his empire, that could be inherited. And who better to inherit it than someone young, someone with the darkness already inside them, someone like Harrison Morgan. Harrison has killed. He has the genetic predisposition. He's young, moldable, and desperately seeking purpose and belonging. Not just taking Dexter, but taking his son, creating a dynasty of darkness that spans generations. Prater might see Harrison as his true successor, the one who can carry his vision forward long after he's gone. What's crucial is that these endgames aren't exclusive. Prater might be pursuing all of them simultaneously. Build the network while corrupting Dexter, expand the empire while grooming Harrison, document everything while preparing for his own revelation. The real answer might be even more complex. Prater might have goals we haven't even seen hints of yet. But whatever his endgame, one thing is certain, Dexter is now in Prater's orbit, and that's exactly where Prater wants him.